Hey everyone, and welcome to Handing the Shame Back. This is a show dedicated 100% to male and female survivors here in Aotearoa and across the world. As always, stand beside you, see you, and I believe you. So it's my absolute pleasure to bring today's guest to you. Just before I introduce Sam, I'd love to give you all a big trigger warning, simply because some of the content may trigger you or disturb you. And if that happens, please go to the show notes below, where you will find resources and support for some help. So we'll also put in there Sam's links so that you can reach out to him. So I'm going to introduce you now to Sam. So Sam Troth has been walking New Zealand, the length and breadth of New Zealand, to bring awareness to child sexual abuse, specifically for males in our country. And he's been doing amazing mahi in this space. He's a survivor, clearly, and we're delighted to welcome him on board. Hello, Sam.
Hey, Gloria, how are you?
Yeah, great. So good to meet you after following you on your journey.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
yeah. How are the legs holding up?
Yeah, they're good. They're good. It's the feet. It's the blisters that are that are sore.
Yeah.
No, the feet and the hips and everything else is fine. Yeah.
Yeah, good on you, buddy. Hey, look, as with everything, before we get into the big hikoi throughout our country, just wondering if you're able to tell us what led to this, which possibly means whatever you're comfortable to share about your story as a survivor, where it began, and yeah.
Okay. So basically, I'm 39. I'm a father of 6. I'm a carpenter by trade. I was sexually abused by a family friend for about 3.5-ish years, from 9 to 13.
Yeah.
And through that period, obviously, I never reached out to anyone, and I just reached out for help in other ways by starting to misbehave, showing signs of aggression and anger, and started using drugs. My abuse stopped. My secondary schooling stopped in third form, or year 9, about one term in. So basically, I have no high school education because what happened and the way that I was coping with it. I resorted to drugs and violence and crime, basically, and I spent all of my youth up to 16 in boys' homes, and then graduated into prison and spent did a total of 6 terms of imprisonment, short stints of imprisonment up until I was 23. And then at 23, I tried to get my shit together and had children, started having children, and that sort of stopped my drugs and my crime. But obviously, my trauma continued to haunt me, and haunt my relationship and my parenting and my employment and everything else around my life. Sort of the only thing I was managed to control was the drugs and the crime. Stopped doing those. And then I guess it would have been late 2019. I'd had a couple of hiccups, probably around 2015. I think 2016. I had a big hiccup and worked through that. My partner left me for a small period of time, and because of my abuse issues, my trauma issues. And then 2019, I was in a dark place, ready to tap out, basically. So I took some time. My wife, I reached out to my wife and told her where I was at, and she arranged for me to go to a friend's farm. And I took a couple of months' time out down there, which was real good for me. And then I came back early 2020, and just started working on myself, and have been ever since. So I spent sort of 2 years with a female psychologist, and we worked through as much as we could work through. And then I engaged, start of this year, with a male counsellor from Male Support Services, or from Male Survivors Aotearoa. So male Survivors Bay of Plenty was the office I reached out to. Bruce, a real awesome guy, and engaged with him, and sort of then decided we'd take a bit of a more blokey approach to things, and try and do something tangible, because I felt that I've been sitting for an hour or an hour and a half every week in this office talking to this lovely lady, and making some real big changes, and getting some awesome tools, but I felt like I'd sat stagnant in a lot of ways as well. So I engaged with Bruce, and we started chatting in that, and about the same time I watched a podcast from a guy in Australia, Brent Simpson, The Clink, so stories of redemption, people that have been in prison and stuff, turn their lives around, etc. And I watched particularly the podcast I listened to was his story, and he was a survivor, and had done a lot of jail, and done a lot of bad things, and was cycling and cycled across Australia from Brisbane to Perth to raise awareness for youth suicide and for sexual abuse. And just hearing his story, and how much it sort of filled the hole in his heart, and made him feel better, and helped him on his journey, I thought, well, this is what I'm going to do. So yeah, so that led us into the Road to Healing Aotearoa, and yeah, so I'm in this hikoi I'm on, or this walk, or this journey, is the final stage of my healing process. I've got everything where I need it to be. I've accepted everything. I have forgiven everyone that I need to forgive, or that deserves forgiveness. And I am now ready to move forward by healing and helping others and raising awareness.
Well, kia ora, Sam. That's beautiful. So well done you, and you've raised some really valuable points. So if you're okay, I'd love to be able to do a little bit of a conversation with you.
Yep.
Interestingly, when you talk about, a family friend being in boys' homes, 6 terms of imprisonment. Interestingly, the whole cover for that is trauma, unresolved trauma, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think for our beautiful male survivors watching, Sam, perhaps just them understanding a little more from your perspective, how do we know when the trauma hasn't been addressed? Like, what did you find? What could you?
You know, the trauma hasn't been addressed because no matter how hard you are trying to do the right thing, or what seems to be the right thing, whether that's, going to work and providing for your partner and your children, and doing whatever you feel you meant to be doing, and you're pushing hard on that, and maybe you're trying to advance in your career, or train, go through your apprenticeship, whatever, you're just going to keep hitting roadblocks. It's like there's something there, it keeps stopping you. You can't achieve, you can't, you're running on 7 cylinders. It's just not working. Nothing works. It's like banging your head against a brick wall. You shake the bad habits of drugs, or or alcohol, or whatever other unhealthy ways you're trying to deal with it, and you'll still find that you're just coming up against this wall, and you're not happy, you're still angry, you're still this, you're still that, all of it's still there. You can't ignore it, you can't get away from it. It's there.
So,
And that's
why
things aren't going well.
Yeah. So what is for you will find you, Sam, yeah?
Yep, absolutely.
It's going to come at you. So I guess the reason I'm asking you this is because there could be men watching who think, yeah, but how do I deal with that? So I guess you noticed in yourself, things just kept tumbling and tumbling and tumbling. Was there a pivotal moment for you where you thought, I've got to sort this out?
there was, and that was when my wife left me
Yeah.
several years ago, and I started trying to address it then. Um, and I guess that accepting, because I was getting a lot from her, and she was saying, your behavior because this, you're being aggressive because of this, your habits are because of this, the way you're treating your children and speaking to your children is because of this. It affects every aspect of yours, and more to the point, our lives. And took me a long time to accept that, because I was trying to not address the trauma.
Yes.
So I was going, I'm angry and frustrated because work's not working out, or I'm being a prick to the kids because, oh man, I've done a 60-hour week this week, man. I'm tired, I'm stressed, just any other reason, then okay, hold on, one of my bad things was I was a sleeper, so I would stay in bed, like I could sleep days away when I would get dark, and if I did that, I would blame that on being tired. I'd just done a 60-hour week and I would sleep all weekend,
Yeah.
and I would say it's the work, it's the work, and my wife would keep bringing it back to, no, it's not, it's the demons. You need to sort it out,
Yeah. So,
and
we got to love Laura, don't we?
yeah. No, Uppy's my wife. Uppy's my wife. Laura's my sister.
Oh, sorry, Api.
Yeah.
I keep saying Laura's name every.
It
Sorry,
gets
Api.
confusing.
Full araha to her beautiful, beautiful, clever woman.
Yeah,
Eh? Clever
yeah,
woman.
absolutely. And that's the thing. Like, she's put up with a lot, and I guess there's a lot of partners out there that don't. But I guess there's a lot of partners out there that do, and and if you're a survivor and you've got this partner that's just keeps putting up with your shit, even if you feel that you can't do it for yourself, you just about, especially if they're the mother of your children,
Yeah.
you need to do it for them, because they've been waiting and they're waiting and they're still waiting.
Yeah.
And once you address it, life gets so much better,
Yeah. So, Sam, what courage, man, what courage you have had to find, because it's as survivors, we're fellow survivors here. Everyone on the show is a survivor, as you know, and the beauty of this is that people can hear what you have experienced and actually start to relate, and may now pick up the phone, and if they're in the States, they may call RAIN, or if they're in New Zealand, they may call Male Survivors Aotearoa. But the point is, there's help there, yeah?
Yeah, there's help available, there's resources there. There's groups, there's everything. Everything's there. But it's one of those things, like, you need to push yourself out of your comfort zone. If you always do what you've always done, you're always going to get what you've always got. So if
I'm
you're not doing anything,
this is Sam Einstein speaking.
but if it's simple though. I know it's not simple, and I know it's hard. And I'm in a stage now of my healing where I've been working on it for years. So I'm speaking from a different place from a lot of people that might be watching or listening to this. But the reality of it is, if I can do it, you can do it. We can all do it. It's the moment we decide to not let it control us, the moment we decide that we're actually going to take time out of our lives, time out of our employment, time out of whatever, our relationship, and actually address this issue with as much time and effort as it's taking away from us, then we're there, because that's what it does. It just takes away everything from you, and whether or not you can realize it or not, sooner or later you will, and because you'll look back and you'll go, wow. And that's when the drugs have worn off, or the alcohol's worn off, or the wife's left, or the fourth or fifth partner's left, the kids don't want to know you, or you're sitting in a cell. You'll be like, okay, hold on, and we need to, address it as soon as possible.
Well, we've got the you know, there are up to 1 in 3 in New Zealand, and I know for males, I will ask you some stats shortly, Sam. For males in our country and globally, we hear reports of between up to 1 in 4 and up to 1 in 6. But I'm here to say I don't believe that, because men don't come forward. So I reckon we're looking at close to 1 in 3 as well.
Yeah.
And I guess I want your opinion on that. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think we'd definitely be more than 1 in 6. And I think the thing is that how do we get these statistics when no one does come forward? And if we've got these statistics must be based on very, very old survivors, people that are possibly in their 50s, stuff like that, and 60s, because that's the age, or the 40s, because that's the age demographic I'm seeing that's engaging with services. I'm not seeing 20-year-olds. I'm not seeing 30-year-olds. You know what I mean? So these are old statistics, which tell me that they must be a lot worse, because I worked out 1 in 6 on the last census, 2021 census. I worked out that 1 in 6 was 317,000 survivors in New Zealand, men over 18. Now, if that's the case, if we look at perpetrators and we say each perpetrator has 5 victims, which some would have a lot more, but some would only have just done it once, but they keep doing it. That's 60,000 active perpetrators in our community right now. You know what I mean? Now, if those statistics say if they drop from 1 in 6 to 1 in 3, that means we've got 634,000 men survivors in New Zealand. And then we've also got 120,000 perpetrators at 5 victims per, or five, you know, I guess you call them victims at this stage because they haven't come forward. You know, so it's kind of horrible. So I've been working on suicide statistics. I've got it right here. Now, in 2019, July 2019 to June 2020, we had a total of 471 men commit suicide, 2 of which were under 14. And with the females, there was 4 girls under 14. Now, we know that 90% of children that commit suicide under the age of 14 were sexually assaulted. So there's 6 in total. So that means that those 2 boys and 3 of those 4 girls were sexually assaulted. That's 5 children. 5 children, actual children. Now, they're also the largest, the survivors would make up the largest demographic. So if I apply 471 men in total committed suicide in 2019 to 2020, if I apply the 1 in 6 number to that, I get 78.5, which makes them the largest demographic. But the ages between 25 and 29, there was 63 men committed suicide between that age and that year. But I'm talking the 1 in 6 is 78.5 men. So it's the largest demographic. Out of the females that year that committed suicide, there was 183. 1 in 3 of 183 makes 61. That is the biggest demographic in the female suicide by 600%, because the biggest demographic was 15 to 19-year-olds at 15 that committed suicide. So 61 is 600% more than that. So it's, you know, like, you don't have to dive into the stats very hard at all to realize that it's absolutely right.
Well, you know what? And as I'm listening to you, because there's so many more that I'll share with you, but the point is this, Sam, thank you for that. My question to you is, where's the noise about this?
I'm trying to make it. I'm trying to make it.
Yeah.
That's it. No one else is. And unfortunately, all survivors are very shy. They're very recluse. We don't know. No one wants to shout it from the rooftop.
Well, I do.
Yeah.
Nay Masters does Riosa. You met them. They were incredibly helpful and supportive on this road to healing.
No men want to stand forward, especially not no young men. And so that's what I want to do, and that's what I'm trying to do, and that's what I'm trying to create with my social media, as a platform where I have a voice that reaches younger people, that reaches reaches more people. We've started a website that's going to go live after the walk. We've arranged. We've got 3 pilot programs we're running in high schools. So we're going into Wairoa College, Waihi College, and Tokoroa High. And we're going to go and speak to the year 9s, the year 10s, and the year 11 boys there. And we're going to we're going to tell my story. We're going to show some clips of my journey, and we're also going to have some conversations around consent. So like, and then hopefully that continues, and more schools invite me in. And I mean, I'm like, and this could become, well, the vision is that becomes my full-time gig, is going to schools and raising awareness and making noise. How that will look, or how that will happen, or when I can make that happen, I don't know. But like, it needs to happen. It needs to happen, because we're not talking about it. If we're not talking about it to younger people, we're waiting for these people to come into the services in their mid-40s, early 40s, late 50s, in their later stages of life, with alcohol dependencies, with drug dependencies, with failed relationships, with criminal records, with bail conditions, with all sorts of other drama, all sorts of other shit that are side effects of the trauma. So if we can get to the point of trauma at a young enough age, so that we can heal these kids, and by the time they're 21, they're completely done. They're productive members of society, and they're loving, tender, caring husbands, and they're loving fathers, and they're present fathers, and they're good brothers. They're good, they're just better people, mended, instead of trying to mend, like having so many more other layers to the onion.
100%. And there's many of us out there trying to get traction. I guess I'm wondering about I call it the silent endemic, Sam, because it's just not given airtime. And I'm not talking about people like you and I and other survivors doing their bit, like Riosa as well. I'm talking about where's our government? Where's the noise? Where's our leaders in this country? Why is this not on billboards everywhere?
That's it.
Where is the funding? I'm working closely with Male Survivors Canterbury. They just don't get resources, and the point is, we need help. We have a huge percentage of the population who have suffered child sexual abuse, and they've got nowhere to take it because no one wants to hear it. So that's my next question to you. What are your thoughts around that, Sam?
Oh, absolutely. Like, that's a huge problem. So I can tell you right now that I know when I jump in the car, I need to buckle up. McDonald's run an ad for years when I was a child with a jingle. If you must remember, every time you're in the car, you know what I mean? Like, I know, no, but seriously, I know I don't drink alcohol, but I know to plan before I party. That sentence, plan before you party, has been marketed and campaigned and advertised on television, billboards, radio, everything else, right? So I know if I'm going to a party, I need a plan before I party. I need a sober driver. I need a taxi. I need this. This has all been drummed into my mind, and I don't drink and I don't party. Okay? So why aren't we putting those ads on television?
Thank you.
Why aren't we doing it? Why aren't we doing? That's exactly it.
Thank you.
Why aren't we subconsciously educating? We can't. And the other thing is, and the other scary thing I think is that we can't rely on the parents and caregivers, because in a lot of the unfortunate cases, it's the parents or caregivers that are dealing out the abuse. So we need to take that blocker out, and we need to be able to direct drive this advertising, and that needs to be on the television, that needs to be on the radio, that needs to be on the back of buses.
Yeah, 100%. I find media very interesting in our country. I was meant to be on the AM show because I'm a survivor of horrendous sexual abuse spanning many years, written a book, blah, blah, blah. Meant to be on the AM show, and they cancelled it 3 times. And in the end, the producer rang and said, we just can't have it on the show. No one wants to hear about it.
Yeah, so they cancelled on me too. I think it was Breakfast cancelled on me. And then I'm actually in talks now with news hub, and we've just sent out an email now, but I don't, yeah, it's not going to go anywhere. You know, I mean, I've even reaching out to people with, I've got to be careful. People with big followings, influencers or celebrities.
Yep.
They don't want to drop their masculinity and share posts. They don't want to. Some of them do, and some of them do, and that's amazing and that's awesome, and I truly appreciate it. But you know, if we could have just a few of our celebrities or a few of our children's idols endorsing this, we're done. We've reached, you know. So if you had a Damian McKenzie, or if you had Richie McCaw, or if you had Dan Carter, or you know what I mean, or if if you had Adams, what's his name, the basketball guy, you know what I mean. If you had one of these guys who grew up in small town New Zealand say, hold on a minute, let me share these posts, and you know, like, then the reach is just intense. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
but
We really need a panel. And you know, I just want to come back to something you said, Sam, just FYI, had a panel discussion with Louise Nicholas. You know Louise Nicholas, or you would have heard of her, yeah? Amazing warrior wahine in this space. Amazing work.
Yeah.
She shared on our panel discussion recently that it's not 5 victims, Sam. Pedophiles and people who abuse children sexually have up to 50, the police tell her, up to 50 victims.
Yeah. So that's 50, and that's because no one's talking up. So if they know that, let's advertise it so that people speak up and stop them from going on to their next one.
So what are you noticing, Sam? What are you noticing on this hikoi you're doing? What are you noticing about people sharing their stories with you? Can you tell us a bit?
There's a lot of people out there that are trying to do their bit, and that is on social media. That is people like yourself and I, and I've had a lot of other people reaching out that are sort of in the similar industries, mental health, and it's all community based. It's all people off the back of their own, you know, time and effort, trying to do something that should be getting funded and done by the government on a large scale once and be done.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm finding.
Yeah.
That's what I'm finding. Survivors are trying to get things happening. They're holding hui's. They're going to local maraes and talking. They're going to local libraries and meeting with people. They're doing all of these community-based incentives, all off the skin of their own back, all funding it all themselves, trying to do it all themselves, all the networking, consuming themselves with it, and you know, like, that's what I'm noticing, is that all of us are having to take time out of our lives and from away from our families, and because we're all trying to, like, run on this crusade because the government's not doing anything.
So are you noticing you've got men stepping forward, you know, sharing with you? And
yeah, I've lost count. I've lost count of the amount of messages I've had. I had a guy, I stopped in to get some toilet paper at a guy's place the other week, and he basically said he was going to commit suicide that day. He was a survivor, and I was some sort of beacon from the universe, which was amazing. And I asked for permission. He said I could, and I reposted his message that he sent me that day, and it was a very powerful message. I've had multiple guys reaching out asking, where do I get help? I had a guy reach out the other day and said he's been talking to me on and off for a little while now, and he said, that's it, I need help, and I need it now, you know. And that's like fucking choice, bro. I've had some sad ones. I've got a guy that follows me, but he doesn't follow me, a young fella, and he can't share my posts, and he can't follow me. He can't like anything because his perpetrator still lives in the house.
yep.
So that's pretty full on. You know, I've got, but yeah, multiple men and wives, so partners, lots of partners reaching out, and saying, hey, look, what do I do? And da da da. And I've got a couple that are talking to my wife at the moment. I'll pass them on to her so they can just pick her brain a little bit about what do I do? How do I go about what I need to do to sort of force this bloody guy to get help? Yeah, I've had like messages from young teenage boys and girls, just I had one of my son's friends, she donated $15 to my Give a Little. It must have been her pocket money or whatever, I don't know, but she and sent me a really lovely message, so like I'm reaching heaps of people, man, and it's awesome, it's awesome. I just want to keep going.
Yeah. Well, on behalf of New Zealand, thank you. Amazing, amazing. And you're giving permission for our beautiful male survivors to step forward, actually. And that's not something that they've necessarily felt. And I guess I wondered if you had any kind of thoughts as to why men struggle to step forward. So,
Yeah, I mean, shame.
yeah.
Shame. That's it. It's shame.
Yeah.
It's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. You're in the workplace with a whole lot of blokey blokes, and you turn around and say, "I was raped as a child." What the fuck? Your reaction is going to be very, very, very strange. People don't know how to take that information. Um, like it's your masculinity, it's your mana, it's everything, but it's not. It's not. You've still got all of that, and as soon as you hand the shame back, as you put it, quite well.
Shame back.
Yeah, yeah. As soon as you hand it back, it's not yours, and it's not embarrassing. It's not shameful. When anyone that said to me, "Oh, you must be a faggot, or you must be gay, or you must be this, or you wanted this, or whatever," take it fuck off. I don't care. Like it's that they're that out of touch and that unhuman in their own heart that I don't want their empathy. I don't want their sympathy. I don't want their understanding. I don't want to even. I I don't even need to know that person because I'm sure that person makes up about when we're talking about sexual abuse and we're talking about stuff like that. That person that thinks you deserved it or you were this or that takes that information and puts it against you maliciously. They make up about 0.1% of the population. Not many people. You'll only meet one. You'll meet 1,000 people that will hug, kiss, embrace you, and support you before you meet one that will shame you.
Yeah.
And if
100%.
that one that does shame you, they've probably got some skeletons in their own closet that they're not willing to accept, or they're one of these perpetrators we're talking about.
I like what you're saying, and thank you so much, Sam, because I wondered too across the world where there's just not permission for men to have been vulnerable children. It doesn't suit the narrative.
No.
So you're meant to protect us. You're meant to be strong. You're meant to never break. You're meant to have never been allowed to have anything terrible happen. And I think what people forget, Sam, is you're just amazing little boys that you had no power. I mean,
that's what people need to understand.
Yeah. I think you're right. And there's another thing I want to bring up and see what you think of this. Is this conversation working for you, Sam?
Yes, yeah, cool. Yeah.
You're helping a lot of people. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Is that, we don't just have the perpetrators here, and we don't just have the survivors. We actually have what I like to call the gatekeepers or the enablers in the middle. And these are the people who know what happened or know what happens, and they do nothing.
Yeah.
What's your thought? What have you seen?
So like it's a tough one because you have enablers, you have these people that might have thought this is inappropriate or this doesn't seem right. And I feel that if they were empowered by an education campaign, then maybe they would say, hey, that looks a bit cozy, or bro, that's inappropriate, bro, or hold on, man, let the young fella shower by himself, or whatever it may be. Yeah, like, and then I guess the other side of that is as well is that it's easier to ignore it, or to not accept it, or to not believe it than it is to believe it. Because once you believe it, you need to take action. Once you suspect it and bring it out to light, you've just opened a huge can of worms. You know, I know for myself, I told my family when I was 17, 18, and no one took the reins and sorted it out for me. You know, like I was still that broken little boy. There was no way I had the strength or ability to sort counselling, to go to the police, to do everything that needed to be done, that should have been done. No one wanted to tackle that, you know, and I'm still now working through issues from that, you know what I mean? Because ultimately that's what I wanted, and that's what you want when you tell someone. You want them to take full control of the situation, whether or not in that moment you're like, oh no, don't call the cop. That's what you want. That's what you need. That's what that child needs. Justice needs to be served. The things need to happen. You can't just, someone can't give you that information and you can't not act on it. You know what I mean? Which is just as bad as knowing it was happening and not doing anything about it. Not
Yeah,
being willing to come to the party fully at the end, especially if you were the parent or caregiver that was responsible for that child
yeah.
at that time. I mean, it is your responsibility. Even though that child's now an adult, it was your responsibility. You know,
Yeah.
and that is the other thing. And then the rift that it can cause in families. I mean, you know, it's caused a slight split in mine, but I know that when there's actual family members of the perpetrators, you're talking, oh, it's just a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare.
It is. And I think there's one thing, there's two things I want to bring up. I want to know what your reaction is to this. I found this the other day. People ask, how can a person abuse a child? I ask, how can so many good people not do anything about it?
Yep, exactly.
And that's what
Exactly.
you're saying.
Yeah.
People always say to me, but Gloria, why would someone even think of children in that way? And I think, well, what are you doing about it? What are you
Yeah.
doing about it?
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing, because you're putting up the blinkers. You know, not my children, not my problem, but it's your neighbour's children,
Yeah,
or it's your workmates' children, or it's your children's little friend that comes over on the weekend and stays the night, and you
yeah,
think it's a bit strange because they wet the bed all the time, or they do something strange, or they act very strange, or when it gets to lights out, they scream and want to go home. It's that little kid.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Or it's the little. I tell you what, with the boy, it's either the little withdrawn boy, or it's the boy that's making so much noise and so much aggression and so much anger and violence that you can't control. Those are your boys that's happened to. These
yeah.
ones that everyone's going, oh, the little shits. You know, these ones that are running around doing smash and grabs, they've all got trauma.
Of course they have. Of course
And
they have.
what the National want to lock them up. Well, I tell you right now, it didn't work for me.
No. No, but I think you're right. There's no permission. My concern, and this is the second thing, just breathe through this, Sam. You're doing great, thank you. But just breathe through this. My concern is, going into schools and talking to these amazing tamariki and adolescents is this. They hear someone like you, they understand that child sexual abuse is wrong, but it's happening in the home, Sam. So we open them up to the idea that actually it's okay, you don't have to tolerate it, but then what? You know what I mean? It's like, what happens then? The education needs to happen, but what happens for that child and that whānau or that family?
Well, then I mean,
Yeah,
whatever happens next happens next. If that child reaches out, we find that child a safe place. The school works with them. They work with their friends. That's where we come together as a community. You know what I mean? I might not be able to take that kid home with me,
no,
but I'm sure one of the teachers there can, or one of the, there is something. There is ways. We can't just go, oh, but then what? Well, bugger it. You know what I mean? We've
no,
got to go, yeah,
yeah, I hear.
we've got to go, okay, let's take a community approach at this. Okay, let's take an actual community approach at this. And yeah, we're going to talk to these schools. And when we go into this school, we're also going to engage with our local community incentives and our local iwi or our local marae or whatever that may be, wherever that school is, however that area works. And we're going to make sure if they've got a community centre or whatever, we're going to make sure that we have those other services ready and willing to help. You know what I mean? So if this is a scenario where a child comes forward straight after you have the little hui and he says, fuck, it's happening to me now. I can't go home. I don't want to go home. We need to be able to, okay, sweet as. Let's sort it out for you then.
Yeah. And that's where we need government to step in.
And that's where the government would have to step in because, you know what I mean? The general population, New Zealand couldn't ignore that. We couldn't ignore that. You put that on social media, that would go viral. Do you know what I mean? That would, that mainstream media could not ignore that. They couldn't.
Yeah.
The government couldn't ignore that.
Well, I hope so, Sam, but unfortunately, if you think about Gloria Vale, unfortunately, I have part of the name in there. You think about Gloria Vale, you think about knowing that child sexual abuse occurs, yet the children are still there. You think about abuse in state care, you know, all the commission of inquiry, you hear all these amazing men and women step forward, they're finding the courage to speak. That was all allowed to happen. It was known. And so I'm really hoping that our country and other countries across the world, you know, start to really step up to the plate because we got children at risk, man, and these stats are not going away, are they?
No, they're not. They're not. And unless we create, the only way to create a break, so that's the thing, like it is scary. That is a scary thought to think, well, what do we do with this guy? What do we do with this little boy or this little girl? What do we actually do with them? And that is a scary thought. But a much scarier thought is, okay, we do nothing. We don't educate them. And there's a whole other generation gone.
Yeah.
So in another 40 years, I'm a wrinkly old man and I'm trying to do a bloody podcast with another young fella my age and he's on the same mission I am 40 years' time. And I'm like, bloody remember when I walked up New Zealand? You're still trying to fix this problem, you know what I mean? So we've just got to bite, you know, either way, it's going to be a, you know, we've got to make the children, we've got to educate the children, we've got to make them aware, we've got to make them understand.
So you would have seen those books that Rioza gave out, So
that should be compulsory. It should be a compulsory educational tool. So it must be a reading book. They should make that they got to read it as a reading book to take home, just like any other book. Then they've got to do a study on it. Then they've got to do an illustrate, like turn it into a whole week thing about that little book.
100%.
So better than drawing butterflies. Why are they drawing butterflies? They can draw pictures out of that book. Why are they talking about Dr. Seuss or about the elephant in the jungle or whatever? They can talk about that book for a week.
Yeah, love it. Sam, you know, talking about what you've been doing now and your poor feet, we feel for your feet. Big hug, big love to your feet. What else would you like us to know about this amazing purpose and mission that you're on?
Just that, you know, like I've never done physical exercise. I've never walked or run or anything like that. I've never been to the gym. I went to the gym once before I started doing the walk. I've always been quite unhealthy and quite harsh on my body and punished, you know, like just not really looking after myself. And one thing I've noticed for my mental health, it has been amazing going for walks. It has been the best thing ever, walking and processing and thinking and feeling and just being in the moment, being by myself, not with anyone, not committed to anything, just walking. And I can't stress enough to anyone that's going through problems or going through, you know, like dealing with this shit, go for a walk, man. Go for a walk. Go walk beside the river. You know, put your glasses on. Cry if you need to cry. Scream if you need to scream. Like no one's going to call the cops on you, and if they do, just tell them you're processing, and they'll probably, like the system, they'll leave you to do it. They'll run away. You know what I mean? But just get out there and literally just you know, like I've never been a morning person. I hate getting up in the morning, and like you just can't be. Some of these places I've been waking up at 5 and like excited and running to get the sunrise. But yeah, watch the sunrise, man. Watch the sunset. Like go for a walk, get some air, get by the water. Um, get just process that shit. If you need to have a cry about it, cry about it. If you need to, talk to yourself out loud, go for a walk and talk to yourself out loud. Like it's been amazing for me. It's done so much. It's been awesome, and then obviously the awareness I'm raising and the people I'm reaching and the amazing people I'm meeting and the networking that I'm doing and all of that has been awesome too. But yeah, like yeah, get some fresh air and get some physical activity and just take a moment. Like I know for me, like there was a period where I just buried myself in work and thought that was going to fix it. That's not going to fix it. And all that happens is you bury yourself in work, you growl and yell and you're an absent prick to your children. And then years are going to go by. Years are going to go by and your kids are going to be grown up. And you've missed out on all of that. You know what I mean? Why? Because you're so selfish that you'd rather wallow in your own trauma, like, than heal yourself so that like, because I've caused issues for my kids. My kids have had experiences now in their childhood that I need to work on with them. They've seen me lose the plot. They've seen me rage out. They've seen shit they shouldn't have seen. And I've got to fix that now. And that's all a side effect of not dealing with the trauma, taking the time out and going, nah, I need to do this because you can't keep going. You know what I mean? It's like a vehicle with a flat tire, like, the wheel's going to fall right to pieces eventually. Can't keep driving. You may as well stop and put air in it as soon as you know it's going flat.
I think, that links in beautifully with what you said earlier, Sam, which was you need to be aware. I asked you, how do you recognize the trauma needs addressing, all this, and you were able to say that nothing seems to work. Nothing works.
Nah.
Nothing feels okay. It's like a block. Yeah.
You put in all that effort and nothing will fall into place. Nothing like lines up. It's like, how sometimes things go good and you're just like, shit, everything's just clicking into place. How's that? And that's how the last sort of couple of years have definitely gone for me and my family. Things just seem to just click along and you're like, oh, how are we going to cover that? Or a bull will come in or just something will just happen and things just fall into place and someone will come into your life and you're like, wow, that was an amazing. How did we bloody meet these people or whatever? And it's just good things start happening. You start working on yourself. Otherwise you're pushing shit uphill with a pointy stick. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. No, that's really powerful. Any kind of advice? I know you've been very generous with what you've been able to share. Any advice you would give to male survivors watching who maybe are aware of what's happened to them but haven't found the confidence or the courage as yet to reach out? What would you do then?
Like you need to find one person you can and it's better if it's not your partner because you put everything else on them. Like I had a best mate that helped me through a lot of this as well. I've had a couple of best mates that have helped me really, really well. But I had one that took me back to the site of my first, where I was first abused, and we did a walk around there and a bit of and just felt the moment. And I did a lot of sounding off him and a lot of talking with him, and I've done a lot with two of my good mates, a lot of sounding, a lot of talking about it. And that gives you the confidence to then move on and talk to about other people. You know what I mean? And you've got to find that you've got to have one mate. Everyone's got one mate or one sibling or one. If everyone's got someone, if they don't, you can use me. You can jump on Instagram or Facebook and you can message me and sound it off me if you don't have that one person. But if you've got that one person other than your partner, your best bro or your brother or someone that you're thick with, someone that you're tight with, sound it off them. Work with them first so you can break down the actual the initial anxiety and pressure and tension. You can, it's like a practice run, It's like a dummy run. Have a dummy run with a mate. Have a dummy run with a support person, with someone you trust, or with me if you don't have anyone.
Yeah.
Message me. But
No.
and just chip away at it. It is hard. It's not easy. I know that what I found real good when I started engaging was COVID had kicked in, so everything was either on the phone, was phone call, or FaceTime. And I actually found that phone call, I didn't like FaceTime, but phone call was really good because I just used to go to my park and just walk circles around my park. And then if I got upset, I'd hide in the bushes because there were other people walking around the park. But it was easy. It was on the phone. I'm just like, I don't have to look at this person, this lady. I don't have to. So I mean, you can even reach out and try and engage with the service. And I know that male survivors would definitely encourage, if that's what it took for you to get through the doors, they would be happy to talk with you on the phone first, or do some sessions and some chats on the phone. It's not unorthodox. It's not, and it's real helpful. It's real helpful because then you're not sitting you can be in your bedroom, or you can be in your home, or you can be in your car parked at your safe place. You can be anywhere you like, and it just makes that little bit easier just to start breaking that wall down.
Oh, that's beautiful. Sam, I'm trying to remove the visual of you hiding in the bushes.
Yeah,
Don't be scared, people. He's a good guy.
yeah. Yeah. Don't worry about the guy crying in the phone.
Oh, please. Hey, anything else from you as we head into close? We've probably got a few minutes left. Is there anything, Sam, you would like to share that you haven't as yet? Or yeah.
But just if you want to follow my journey, it's almost finished. So I finish up on the 30th of December. So if you want to follow my journey on Instagram, it's The Road to Healing Aotearoa. We're also on Facebook. We're going to start a TikTok shortly and load up all our photo reels onto TikTok so we can try and reach a bit of a younger audience again. We're also going to go live with our website, The Road to Healing Aotearoa, at the start of next year. And we're going to be sort of linking our Instagram to that and posting what we're up to. We've got a lot of things lined up next year. So if this is something, if you're watching this now and this is interesting you, or this is resonating with you, then please stay tuned. This is just the start. The walk was basically a promotional gimmick to get you to watch me. It
Well,
was to show my commitment, because I don't see anyone else literally walking the entire length of the country. That's how committed I am. And I've started by doing that first. And then I'll move on to other more practical things that don't involve so much pain and exercise. But the fight will continue.
so open an invitation, Sam. You're very welcome to be on my channel or use it for promotion anytime you wish to. So.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Hey, stay right where you are, please. Wonderful, Sam. Thank you. Stay there. Hey, audience, how wow, what a survivor we have in Sam, and so hoping that our beautiful male survivors out there reach out and get the help they need. We've got to start talking, guys. We've got to help save some lives here. A couple of things Sam said. Well, he said many things of value, but two that have stuck with me is you need to take action. So if you're feeling that life is just constantly stopping and blocking you, it could be a sign that the trauma is not being dealt with. The second thing he said that I wanted to bring you back to was, walking or being out in the fresh air is so amazing for mental health. But little note, don't hide in the bushes, please. And then thirdly, with love from me to you, fabulous survivors, I see you, I stand beside you, and I believe you.